Welcome back to HQ Spotlight here on CBS Sports Network. The 12-team college football playoff is set, and while these players are going to have to leave it all on the field, the guys on the sideline coaching these players may make all the difference when it comes to advancing in the college football playoff. Tom Fornelli has released his rankings for the head coaches in the college football playoff. Georgia's Kirby Smart comes in at number 1, and that's ahead of Texas's Steve Sarkisian. As you see there, Ohio State's Ryan Day and Oregon's Dan Lanning round out the top 4. Let's dissect it all with Tom himself. Tom, it is so great to see you. I want you to begin with Kirby Smart ahead of the other 3 coaches that I mentioned. What went into the decision for him being in that top spot?
I think with Kirby, it's pretty simple. There are only 2 coaches remaining in the country who have won national titles. He's one of them. Dabo is the other. But comparing him to the 12 guys in this field, I just think Kirby has accomplished the most, and I think that his program, even in the years in which Georgia has not won a national title, has been the most consistent. Every single season coming in, Georgia is considered a favorite to win the SEC and to get to the college football playoff, and even after suffering a loss this year to Alabama, they were still able to get back to Atlanta. They took down Texas twice, the only team who's done it all season long, to earn themselves a bye and the number 2 seed. So even in a year in which his team doesn't look as dominant as you're used to seeing it, it's still the number 2 team in the country right now, and it's still one of the favorites to win the college football playoff. So I just don't think anybody else really has a strong claim to number 1 other than Kirby.
All right, I get the Kirby placement. 2 natties, his ability to thrive in high-pressure situations. We've seen it before. But explain yourself on Ohio State's Ryan Day being ahead of Oregon's Dan Lanning.
You know, I love Dan Lanning, and I think that probably about another year, and heck, maybe even after this very first college football playoff, I will be slotting him ahead of Ryan Day. It's just to this point, this is Dan Lanning's first college football playoff appearance. It's his first conference title. Ryan Day has had struggles against Michigan in the past, but if you take that off the resume, he's still been an excellent coach for a very long time. Ohio State is in the title picture every single year. This is Ryan Day's second appearance in the college football playoff, and it was a few years ago against Georgia where they came very close to knocking off the Bulldogs, and had they done so, they would have faced TCU in the title game. And we remember what Georgia did to TCU. I think Ohio State would have had a similar result. So Ryan Day came very close to winning a national title, which, had that happened, I think the way we look at him would be very, very different. But for right now, you're kind of splitting hairs. I think that they're both excellent, and I think Dan Lanning's got the better spot this year as far as the ability to advance in the tournament. But Ryan Day, just career-wise, putting him just edging him past Dan Lanning a little bit.
All right, resume wins. I get it. Let's get to the 5th and 6th spot in your rankings for head coaches in the upcoming 12-team playoff. You have James Franklin ahead of Dabo Swinney here. And now I'm a little bit confused because you did say that the other coach in this 12-team playoff that has the rings to back it up is Dabo. So what went into this decision?
Dabo Swinney has done so much in his career. He's won multiple national titles. He's made Clemson a national program. It's just, he's also been his own worst enemy at times, in the fact that while you could debate the proper way to run a program, the fact is, in the modern era, if you want to compete for national titles, you have to use the transfer portal. And he has just been so stubborn about going to the portal to maybe offset some of the weaknesses and deficiencies in his roster. And it's been to his team's detriment. Yes, they won the ACC this season, but you can argue they backed their way into the ACC championship game because Miami messed up at the end and they beat SMU while nearly blowing that game despite having a huge lead. So I look at the Tigers, yes, they're in the playoff, but they're also the 12 seed. And compared to what this program has been in recent years, Clemson shouldn't be the 12 seed. They should have been one of those 4 teams getting a bye and winning the ACC by going with 1 loss. And perhaps if Dabo would have used the transfer portal, they would have.
All right, let's get to Indiana's Curt Cignetti here at 8 in your rankings. I think we can all agree that what he's done at Indiana this season has been so remarkable. But what's maybe keeping you from having him a little bit higher on this list?
Really, the only thing that's keeping me from putting Curt up higher, and once you get to this bottom half of the list, you're really just splitting hairs because these are all very good coaches. They didn't get to the college football playoff by not knowing what they're doing. But for me, more than anything, it's just Curt doesn't have that signature win yet. Indiana's had a lot of really big wins, and I know on paper beating Michigan is a big win for Indiana football. It's just this year's version of Michigan is not the team that has won 3 straight Big Tens coming into this and won the national title last year. It was a pretty mediocre Michigan team. We saw them lose that big game against Ohio State. So for me, I can't diminish what he's done, whether at James Madison or the fact that he has Indiana, of all freaking programs, in the college football playoff. It's just, I need to see him win one of these big games. If he pulls off the upset and beats Notre Dame, he'll probably jump at least 3 spots in these rankings.
Well, another program that's been on the rise since having a new head coach is Tennessee. It seems like the glory days for the Vols are on their way back with Josh Heupel at the helm. You have him, at 11, but what is his ceiling really after watching Josh Heupel and this Tennessee team this season navigate this wild Southeastern Conference?
I think his ceiling will be dictated, honestly, by his quarterback, Nico Iamaleava. This is Josh Heupel's career from UCF to Tennessee. He was brought in for his offense, his ability to, take any kind of quarterback and mold them to an offense that was capable of putting together explosive plays and points. We saw him turn Hendon Hooker into an NFL player when nobody really projected that for Hendon. We saw him have some success last year with Joe Milton. Well, Nico is easily the most talented quarterback that he has ever worked with, but ironically, Tennessee's gotten to the college football playoff due to running the ball and a solid defense. The passing attack just hasn't been there. So I think if I'm Josh Heupel, if I can get the best out of Nico Iamaleava, take that to the next level, really get my passing game going and start leading with my offense in these playoff games, starting with a road game against Ohio State, then he would climb the rankings pretty easy. And I think he has that in him. It's just Nico, being young, hasn't really been able to hit that yet.
All right, Tom Fornelli joining us here live on CBS Sports HQ Spotlight as he breaks down the top head coaches in the upcoming college football playoff. We know the players deserve all the praise, but we cannot forget the masterminds behind the game as we look to start the college football playoff on December 20th. Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks enter as the favorite to win the national championship.